Hello and welcome to Nurture Academy. In this module, we are going to learn about current electricity. So let's get started. First thing we have to understand is that current is said to be flowing when the electrons they move. Now electrons can move under two conditions. Number one, as we know, if there is change in temperature, due to the change in temperature, the electrons can flow. So that type of flow of electron when there is only temperature is there, but there is no potential difference between the terminal of the conductor is known as diffusion current. But if we see, diffusion current will be zero because electrons, when there is no potential difference across it, they will follow a random path. They will be like random gas particles which will collide with each other, and then the net velocity of the electron will be equal to zero. But if we apply any potential across the terminals, then in that case there will be some kind of current which will be produced. Now let us understand this looking at this particular diagram, in which we can see that we have applied electric field in the form of potential difference, and we are trying to calculate the value of drift velocity of the electron. Why we call it drift velocity? Because electrons are drifting because of the influence of the electric field. Now here we can use a simple expression which we have learned in mechanics also. V is equal to U plus AT, means final velocity is equal to initial velocity plus acceleration multiplied by time. But initial velocity in this case will be taken to be equal to zero, because as I've already explained that average thermal velocity of the electrons will be equal to zero. Instead of writing acceleration, now we will write acceleration in terms of force. We know that force is equal to mass into acceleration. That means acceleration will be written as force divided by mass, and force in turn is related to electric field by the relation charge multiplied by electric field is equal to force. So when we fill the value in this equation number 1, we will get the value of drift velocity to be minus small e, that is charge on the electron, into capital E, which is the electric field, divided by mass of the electron multiplied by tau. Tau is actually equivalent to the relaxation time. It's a kind of time, but this is the relaxation time between two collisions when two electrons collide with each other. Now, since we have already derived the relation between drift velocity and acceleration and relaxation time, now let us try to understand what is the relation between current and drift velocity. So here we will always consider that, let us say, one cylindrical wire is there which carries some electron. So total number of electrons would be obviously in the volume of that given wire. So that is why N is the number of electrons, A is the area of that wire, and L is the length of the wire through which electrons are going. Now we don't know the relation between, direct relation between drift velocity and the charge, but at least we know that velocity is equal to distance divided by time. So in this case, I will rearrange the equation in such a way. You can see by equation number 3, P will be written as distance divided by velocity. And we know that current is equal to charge divided by time. So when you fill all the values, you will get the value of current in terms of drift velocity as I is equal to N, number of electrons, A, area of that wire, E is the charge on each and every electron, and Vg is the drift velocity of the electron. From here, one more term we can calculate, that is known as current density. Current density is defined as total current per unit area which passes through one particular conductor, which is denoted by the symbol J. So we can also say J is equal to NEVD. Going next, one more simple relation we are having. Again, we are simply going to rearrange all the equations. So in this case, we will fill the value of drift velocity to be equal to small e capital E by m into tau, that we have already derived. Okay. And capital E in this case, we are writing in terms of potential. Capital field is equal to potential divided by length, that we all know. So we'll rearrange this equation, and we will say potential divided by current is equal to resistance. We fill the value of current, we fill the value of potential in terms of field, and we can calculate the value of resistance in terms of tau, mass of the electron, and in terms of length of the conductor and area of the wire. Another relation of resistance, we already know that R depends upon rho L divided by A. Okay, so let us see some simple numerical problems based upon this current density formula. So we are given one copper wire whose area is given to us, and we know the value of the current. We know the number of electrons flowing through that given area. We just have to find out the value of current density and average drift velocity. So the formula is very simple. Current density is equal to NEVD, where VD is your drift velocity. So first you calculate current density in terms of current per unit area, then use the another relation of current density and calculate the value of drift velocity. Next, this type of questions, we have already come across in, I think, in the lower classes. So whenever we are having a comparison type of question, what we should do is we'll write the formula. Like here we are given two wires which have same material and same length. Material means rho of the wire, rho which is known as resistivity of the wire, that is same, and length of the both the wires is same. But resistance is different, and we have to calculate the ratio of the radii. So we'll use simple expression R is equal to rho L by A. Since rho and L in both the cases is same, so we'll just ignore that. Pi is a constant, that also we can ignore. So overall, we will come to the relation that resistance is inversely proportional to radius square, and we'll fill the value and we can easily calculate these type of questions. Next type of very easy question is that resistance also depends upon the temperature. So in this case, this relation looks somewhat like when we had learned in the lower classes, every material expands on heating. So if you increase the temperature of the wire, its resistance will increase. That this is in case of metallic resistance, because when we increase the temperature, the number of collisions between the electrons increases. Number of collisions will lead to more resistance. Okay, so that is why resistance will increase. And the formula is R at a given temperature T is equal to R0, which is the initial resistance, into 1 plus alpha into T, where alpha is known as the coefficient of resistance at that given temperature. So this question is easy, and this for 1 mark, that question is very important. Next type of questions we come across would be that we will have some kind of next type of question we will come across is we will get some kind of circuit and we would have to find the effective resistance. So this type of questions are based upon the symmetry of the given circuit. In this given circuit, we can see that three parts are exactly same to each other. So what we are going to do is we are going to break this whole circuit into one part. Just concentrate on one square, one rhombus kind of a thing we will just take, and then all three rhombus, they are connected in series with each other. So, if you can see, we will first draw the comparison circuit with the previous one, the rhombus. The resistance 5 ohm and 10 ohm are in series, and in the lower half you can see again resistance 10 ohm and 5 ohm are in series, but overall these two, they are in parallel with each other. So first you calculate resistance of one rhombus, it will come 7.5. Since all three of them are connected in series, so we will just add the net resistance and we will be able to calculate the final resistance of this given circuit. Next variety of formulas, this type of questions actually, in this I have taken a very simple circuit. Just in case, they gives you some complicated circuit, always remember the base formula. So base formula is that V is equal to I into R. That is, potential is equal to total current into total resistance. Since here we are talking about EMF of the cell, so EMF is related to the potential with the relation capital E is equal to V minus I into small r. Means whenever there is EMF in the cell, that is the maximum amount of voltage which a cell can produce. So, the trick is that if they give you very complicated question, you don't have to remember the formula for each and everything. You just calculate net EMF separately, net voltage separately, equivalent resistance capital R separately. And when you fill the value in the formula, you can easily calculate the value of small r, that is the internal resistance of any given battery. Next variety of questions we come across, these are very important based upon the Wheatstone bridge. Wheatstone bridge is in turn an application of Kirchhoff's law. There are two Kirchhoff's law which we have learned. First one is called law of junction. Total current entering into the junction is equal to total current leaving the junction. Second one is called loop law, in which we can say that if we take any enclosed path, then total potential drop across that path will be equal to total current multiplied by total resistance. All we need to know in Kirchhoff's law is if the battery is giving EMF, or in the positive direction the current is going, you will take it to be positive, and if the battery is giving the current in the anti-clockwise direction, you will take the value of current to be negative. That's all. The Kirchhoff's law is very easy. And then application of Kirchhoff's law is Wheatstone bridge. Wheatstone bridge is used to calculate the unknown resistance in any given circuit. So three resistance basically will be known to us. Okay. And if this bridge is balanced, in that case, simple formula, R1 divided by R2 is equal to R3 divided by R4. And we can fill the values and we can find out the value of the unknown resistance. In this case, if you put any galvanometer along the side BD, if you can see in the diagram very clearly, if there is any galvanometer through the points B and D, it will show zero deflection. That is the principle and working of the Wheatstone bridge. It works on the principle of the balanced bridge. Next we have is your meter bridge. Meter bridge is just a variation of the Wheatstone bridge. In Wheatstone bridge also we use the formula R1 by R2 is equal to R3 by R4. Here we know that resistance R of any given wire is equal to rho L divided by A. Now suppose that material is not changing. So rho will remain constant, and same way area is also not changing. So area also remains same. In that case, resistance of the wire is directly proportional to length of the wire. So that is the working principle of your meter bridge, that resistance depends upon length. So we use the formulas. Again, simple formula. Unknown resistance X divided by known resistance R equal to L1 divided by L2. Now this L1 and L2, L1 will be actually that length where your galvanometer shows zero deflection or null point. The next value L2 you can calculate by subtracting from 100, because 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeter. And the last part of this chapter is the third variety of bridge, which is known as potentiometer. So for potentiometer, the usefulness of potentiometer is it can be used to calculate the internal resistance of any given uh, battery. Okay. So in this given question, we will use, same, simple formula we will use, that is I is equal to, see, we know V is equal to I into R. So instead of writing, V, we will say E. E is the EMF of that given battery. So current I will be equal to EMF divided by total resistance in that given circuit. So using this relation, we can calculate the value of potential gradient. Also, if we wish to, in some question, we can also calculate the value of internal resistance E. So I hope you guys like this video. Please like, share, subscribe our channel for many more videos like this. Thank you.